All right, so there are many relationships testing which are done by for many different reasons, and each have their advantages and disadvantages, which we'll be exploring with Chief Executive Officer of Who is the Daddy, Gavin Oliver, and Associate Counseling Psychologist, Camille Campbell. Morning, guys. Welcome to Smile Jamaica.
Morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
All is well?
Yes.
Hey.
Yeah. Who is the daddy? That's what it is?
Absolutely right. Who's the daddy? It's a great name.
Talk to me about that, Sir Gavin.
Okay, so mainly we're a paternity testing company, but it's not just paternity testing we do. So the idea is there's many families out there who are going through situations where they're not sure if the father is actually the real biological father. So they seek out to get a DNA test to prove whether that's the case or not. That's where a company like us comes in. We go out to them, we collect the specimens, we then send them off to the lab in the UK where they're tested, and the results come back, knowing if they are the father or not the father.
Is this a private company? Do you work with or for the government? Is just a private thing that you do?
It's a private company, but we are associated with the government because we also work with the Ministry of Justice on UK immigration tests. So, for example, if there is a case where, let's say, somebody is trying to send somebody up to the UK and the government says, okay, you need to prove, first of all, that this person is a child, they need to have a DNA test. In generally, they'll receive a letter which will tell them to come to the embassy. They would then send us to come down to the embassy where we would carry out the test in front of a witness provided by the embassy. And then those DNA results are used to analyze whether or not the person making the application for the visa to bring in their child is actually the father or not.
Camille, wow, it's a tough test.
It is.
It's a tough test to take. What are some of the things that people should bear in mind before doing the test? Is there pre-test counseling? Because I'm thinking that you really should be prepared.
Yes, indeed, you should be prepared based on the likely results. Because what you'll find happening, you're going to experience a lot of mixed emotions. Mm-hmm. You're going to have a lot of anxiety, not just with the parents, with the children. Also, if the children knows, well, just like that, they will know. So you also need to prepare them so that they don't feel rejected or feel abandoned within the situation. And so there needs to be some preparation of the likely results and the emotions that they may experience and how to deal with these emotions.
You're saying depending on the results, Camille, but I want to get to even before the results, because I think just the idea, the woman feeling that, oh, you didn't trust me, the man thinking, oh, did I put my trust in you and I shouldn't have? I've seen scenarios where, as you said, there's been a disconnect from the children in anticipation of what the result is going to be. Should parents seek counseling during the time before the test while they're waiting? Should that happen?
It is good to seek counseling, especially to deal with the conflict that you mentioned, the mistrust, right? And feeling that you didn't trust me, the whole situation of the mistrust, and a lot of times the children get forgotten within the situation because the parents are dealing with their own emotions. And so sometimes the children's emotions get neglected. And so, yes, the counseling is necessary to bring all of this together so that they know how to manage these emotions, to manage the distrust, and to deal with the causes as to, okay, the reason you're going down this road, to bring some form of security, emotional security within the situation.
Sir Gavin, how accurate is this? And I suspect you would know if you got it wrong, would you? Or would you?
Well, basically, there's two types here. You've got something called paternity fraud, and then you've got something called paternity discrepancy. Fraud is when a lady has gone out of her right way to just, turn around and say you're the father when she knows you're not. And discrepancy is where she had no idea that you weren't the father herself. Along these lines, we have a bit of a policy. Whenever someone asks for a paternity test, we do give them some sort of guidance as in why they want to do the tests. And the results, if they come back negative, how is that going to affect the family? We get feedback from each of our specimen collectors and our DNA assistants out there, and then we make decisions. The normal policy is if a test comes back negative, we normally notify the mothers first, and we give them half an hour's notice to say, listen, we're going to also be notifying the father, but this is the result. Because sometimes there are cases where women need to protect themselves because a negative result could have serious consequences in the home.
Does that suggest that it's 100% proof?
The tests are 99.99% accurate. So it's not 100%. You can never have 100% guarantee, but 99.99 is as close as you're going to get.
Yeah. I suspect there are other reasons that there might be a test necessary for maybe inheritance or something like that. If my father left something, I suspect they would want to know if I am in fact his son.
Absolutely. I mean, there's many types of tests. Others are maternity tests. For example, if there is a child that's been adopted and they want to find out who their biological mother is, there are tests for maternity. There are also other tests, for example, nuclear tests, which is where the uncle or aunt would apply for a test. It'll be a case, let's say, out of the worst luck, a car accident happens, the parents die, the child is left alone, and the auntie or uncle wants to apply to the court to take custody of the child. They may request a DNA test, and that's the kind of test that takes place to find that information out.
Before we get to Camille, Gavin, there is one particular lab, their statistics say 7 out of 10 paternity tests, the results showed that the men were not the fathers. From your experience at your lab, are these statistics in keeping?
Absolutely.
With your
78%.
It's in keeping with your lab as well?
Absolutely. Don't be so shocked. I mean, there is an article also in the UK by the Manchester Evening News that was done, and the lab results in the UK are running also at 48%, I believe it.
Wow. Camille, that's a lot of emotional work to get done. I mean, the results of the test in some instances brings peace of mind, but I think in other instances, from your experience, what are some of the repercussions that happen? Is depression one of it? What are some of the things that happen? Camille?
Camille's
I'm going to ask again. I don't think she. So Camille, I'm saying that you can do a test. It can bring peace of mind, but in some instances, you're talking about depression, shame, guilt. From your experience, what are some of the emotional drawbacks of doing this?
Still
I'm
not,
going to
still
stick
not.
with Gavin.
Hi, yes, I'm still here. Looks like
Gavin,
Camille's...
Looks like the statistics shock Camille as much as they shock me.
Gavin, we see it on TV, but how is the test done? What's the test? You just pull out some piece of somebody here or something like that? Is that it?
Ways to collect DNA. Forensically, there's loads. But generally what we do is a buccal swab, which gives the highest results, believe it or not, higher than blood.
It is what? It is what? Sorry.
A buccal swab. So it's similar to a cotton bud. It's placed on the side of your cheek where we stroke up and down to collect as much DNA as possible. It's then put into a test tube. Again, that same method is used on the child and on the mother, if she's available. And it's then sent to the UK where the results are tested and analyzed.
Okay, so sorry to jump in, Gavin. So you have to test everybody, not just the father and the son or the father and the daughter. You have to test everybody.
No, not necessarily. You can test just the father and the son. Now, you can also test the mother as well, if you would like, because the results will come back and say the mother's name, the father's name, and the child's name on the result certificate.
Yeah.
But if it's just the father and son, it will just say the father's name and the son's name on the result certificate.
What do you find is the most frequent reason or reasons for tests to be done, Gavin? Is it for immigration purposes, health reasons? What do you find is the most common reason that tests are done?
But by a mile, is definitely peace of mind. There seems to be a lot of men out there who are terribly unsure with sleepless nights whether or not they're actually the biological father of their children or not. Some men are afraid to say. We have quite a lot of people who come to us and say, listen, I can't mention this at home because it will kick up a storm. However, I am totally unsure whether I am the father. How can I find out?
I suspect, I don't know if you personally do the test, but I suspect some of these people probably get a little bit annoyed, maybe more than a little bit annoyed, and behave badly. Have you had any real bad experience, whether you or your colleagues, because of someone who didn't like the results of the test?
There has been a few cases where, for example, the mothers have asked us to send them more information because they don't understand how the test has come back that the father is not the father. And we send them everything that they need. The test is, totally bona fide. So there is no situation of any hanky-panky going on where we're going to pretend that someone's the father where they're absolutely not. The situation is that there are fathers, again, who will go out there, and that's why we have that policy where we give mothers 30 minutes notice in advance before issuing a negative test to a father. So if they are in a situation where they themselves, more than anybody else, know if they're going to be in danger, can place themselves in a better situation than they are in.
Yeah, fantastic, Gavin. Thank you so much for speaking with us this morning. Stay safe, all right?
Absolutely. Thanks again.
Yeah, man. Gavin Oliver, Chief Executive Officer of Who's the Daddy? And you heard earlier from Associate Counseling Psychologist Camille Campbell. Unfortunately, we lost her.
I still stuck at the 70%. That's wow.
70% of fathers who think they're fathers are not the real fathers.
Of that child.
That is key.
Because somebody is the father.
That is key.
So,
70%.
so then they may be the father of another child. So that's a whole new thing that needs some research.
Yeah, that question that I asked is pretty serious, because in certain communities, if a father finds out that he is really not the father, somebody could be physically hurt in some communities. So, 70%. My kids born a foreigner.
70%. So 70% is not the father, but 70% of you are.
Yeah. My kids born a foreigner.
Up next, 2 teachers share their views on the reopening of schools. Lord.
What a test.
King David sit up on the ebony chair.
Hi,
Hi.